Shalom, shalom, shalom. Banyam Yasha Allah, Banyam Tazadak, Banyam Malak, Banyam Ha'abadyam. Barakatham Bahashim Yahawah, Bahashim Hamashiach Yahawah Call Halayim La Yahawah Thum Yad. It's your brother Aklamak, representing Mount Zion Reborn, the truth tellers. And in this video, we're going to break down how the earth and the elements obey the Most High. And before we even step foot into the precepts, we must lift up our voices and exalt Yahawah, the Father, the highest, the one whose word shakes the foundations, bends creation, and causes even the dust beneath our feet to move at his command. This lesson begins where all truth begins, with honor and praise and fear and reverence to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name alone is excellent, whose glory transcends the heavens, and whose power has no rival. Yahawah is not a passive observer of his creation. He is the active, living sovereign who speaks and the earth itself responds. The mountains tremble, the valleys part, the ground opens, the soil withholds its strength, the land vomits out the wicked. The earth shakes, melts, and splits, rises and collapses, all because the one, the highest, has given the order. His power is not allegorical. His works are not symbolic. Creation itself is his servant. The earth is alive, not in the foolish sense of paganism, but alive because it was formed by the breath of his word. And therefore it stands as a direct witness, a faithful recorder of his judgments, a vessel of his wrath and the stage for his promises, and a servant ready to obey at the slightest utterance of the Most High God. From the first foundation of the world, the earth has its master. It hides nothing from him. It resists nothing he commands. It rebels against none of his decrees. Instead, it bends, shifts, fractures, moves, yields, or withholds, according to the exact appointment of Yahawah's will. When men rebel, the earth does not. When kingdoms rise in pride, the earth waits for its command to swallow them. And when the wicked fill the land with violence, the earth groans and prepares to vomit them out. When Yahawah is wroth, the dust itself trembles. And this is why the prophets spoke with trembling. They witnessed firsthand that Yahawah's voice is not just heard in the heavens. It's recorded in the very ground we walk on. The earth has always been his obedient servant, his weapon, his witness, and his testimony to all generations. The land of Israel obeyed him. The mountains obeyed him. The valleys obey him. The footsteps of his anger made the earth stagger like a drunkard. The presence of his fury made the earth melt like a wax. And the judgments of the highest caused entire nations to fall when the ground beneath them shifted at his word. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 9, verse 11, and it reads, "Sing praises to Yahawah which dwelleth in Zion. Declare among the people his doings. This lesson will magnify the greatness that is Yahawah, Abanawa, our Father, by showing how the earth responds to him exactly as he designed, without hesitation, without resistance, and without confusion. The land reacts in ways that no man can ignore, because Yahawah uses the very ground we stand on to make his power known. And if the earth itself, in inanimate creation, obeys Yahawah perfectly, then what excuse do men have who refuse to bow? May your spirit be prepared, because the precepts you are about to walk through are not soft. They are not traditionalized in the sense of modern Western Christianity. It's not symbolic or poetic. They are raw displays of Yahawah's uncontested dominion, where the earth itself becomes the extension of his judgment and the vessel of his will. When Yahawah speaks, the earth listens. When Yahawah commands, the earth moves. When Yahawah rises, the earth shakes. When he is provoked, the earth opens. And when Yahawah, our power, returns, the earth will split beneath his son. And all creation will bear witness that Yahawah alone is God, forever exalted, forever feared, forever praised, and forever obeyed. I pray you understand that. From the very beginning, creation has never hesitated to obey the command of Yahawah. While men argue, nations rebel, and kingdoms lift themselves up in arrogance, the earth and all its elements respond with immediate submission. Creation does not forget its maker. It does not resist the order of the highest. It does not require correction or chastisement to perform his will. This is the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 20 and 21, and it reads, "And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that it may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good." When the Most High commands the waters to bring forth life, we see creation responding instantly to his word. The seas become a vast womb, overflowing with movement, fish, great sea creatures, and every manner of winged bird rising from his decree. Nothing develops by chance. Everything emerges with purpose, order, and distinction. Every creature appears after its kind, showing that the God of Israel establishes the boundaries and harmony from the beginning. The same pattern he later applies to nations, covenants, and holiness. The creation of the great sea beast displays his unmatched power, for even the mightiest forces of the deep are simply works of his mighty hands. As these creatures fill the waters and the skies with abundant life, the Most High looks on his works and declares it is good, functioning exactly as he intended. The book of Genesis shows us that when his voice goes forth, life multiplies, orders stand firm, and all creation takes its rightful place under his authority. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 148, verse 7 and 8, and it reads, "Praise Yahawah from the earth, ye dragons and all deeps, fire and hail, snow and vapor, stormy wind, fulfilling his word." The psalmist calls on creation itself, sea monsters, ocean depths, fire, hail, snow, mist, and stormy winds, to praise the Most High. This is not exaggeration. It's a reminder that every element in the natural world is under his command and serves his purpose. The sea, which often symbolizes danger and unpredictability, is not beyond his reach. Even the great creatures of the deep respond to his will just as surely as the hosts of heaven do. When the psalm speaks of fire and tempest fulfilling his word, it reveals that the forces men fear are instruments in his hand. Lightning, blizzards, and violent winds never operate independently. They execute his decrees with precision. The entire creation testifies that the God of Jacob rules not only over the Israelites, but over the very fabric of the world itself, bending nature to honor him. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 104, verses 31 and 32, and it reads, "The glory of Yahawah shall endure forever. Yahawah shall rejoice in his works. He looketh on the earth, and it trembleth. He toucheth the hills, and they smoke." These verses show how effortlessly the Most High governs creation. A simple glance from him causes the earth to tremble, and the lightest touch of his fingers turns mountains into columns of smoke. Nothing in nature is stable on its own. Its stability depends entirely on his will, and what men consider unmovable can shift in an instant when he interacts with it. The psalmist is highlighting the nearness and the majesty of the God of Jacob. He is not distant or detached from the world he made. He is actively present, and his presence carries unmatched power. Creation reacts to him the way a servant reacts to a master, swiftly, fearfully, and with total obedience. This same power that shakes mountains is the power that defends Yahawah, judges the nations, and sustains all things by his word. This is the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 3 through 5, and it reads, "The Lord Yahawah is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. Yahawah has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebuketh the sea and maketh dry. He drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. The mountains quake at him, the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence. the world and all that dwell therein. Nahum describes the Most High as slow to anger, yet unstoppable in judgment, showing both his patience with his people and his certainty in destroying their oppressors. His path is pictured as a whirlwind and a storm, meaning that when he rises to act, no force in the natural world or among the nations can resist him. The clouds themselves are like dust beneath his feet. What seems overwhelming to man is insignificant to him. As he confronts the wicked, creation reacts violently. Seas dry up, rivers fail, and fertile lands wither under his displeasure. Even the mountains, symbols of permanence and strength, also resembling governments and prophecy, but the rocky mountains themselves quake and melt before him. Through these images, Nahum reveals that the God of Yahawah is not confined to the heavens. His judgments shake the very structure of the earth. When he rises to repay the nations, everything from the greatest kingdoms to the foundations of nature acknowledges his power and bows to his wrath. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 114, verse 3 through 7, and it reads, "The sea saw it and fled. Jordan was driven back. The mountains skipped like rams, and the little hills like lambs. What ailed thee, O thou sea, that thou fleddest? Thou Jordan, that thou was driven back? Ye mountains, that ye skipped like rams, and ye little hills like lambs. Tremble, thou earth, at the presence of Yahawah, at the presence of the God of Jacob." This psalm recalls the mighty acts of the Most High during the Israelites' deliverance, showing how creation itself responds when he moves on behalf of his people. The sea fled at his command, opening a path where no path existed. The Jordan River reversed its flow as if retreating from his presence. These were not random miracles. Nature recognized the Israelites' God and yielded before him. Mountains and hills skipped like living beings, illustrating that even the most solid parts of the earth tremble when he draws near. The psalmist then turns to the natural world and asks why it reacted this way, only to answer with the true cause. The earth shakes before the Lord God of Jacob. It was not the Israelites' strength that made the seas divide or the mountains to quake, but the presence of the Holy and Mighty One walking with his people. The one who turned rock into pools of water is the same one who commands the elements, bends creation to his will, and demonstrates that all things, land, water, and stone, submits when he moves in power for the Israelites' salvation. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 12, and it reads, "For ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands." Prophet Isaiah paints a picture of the Israelites' future redemption, where creation joins in the celebration of their release. The joy described here is not only symbolic, it reflects the harmony restored when the people of God, the people of his covenant, return to their rightful place under the favor of the Holy and Mighty One. Even the mountains and the trees respond, as if the natural world recognizes that the rightful heirs of the land are being restored. The hills break out in song. The trees clap their hands because the curse is lifted and order is being reestablished. Creation has suffered under the dominion of the nations, but when the Israelites returns under the hand of the Holy One, the earth rejoices. The joy of the redeemed and the response of nature testify together that Yahawah's word does not fail. This is the book of Psalm chapter 33, verse 6 through 9, and it reads, "By the word of Yahawah were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. He gathereth the waters of the sea together as an heap, and he layeth up the depths in storehouses. Let all the earth fear Yahawah. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast." The psalmist reminds us that all creation exists because the Most High decided to speak. The heavens, the host of stars, and all the unseen forces in the cosmos came into being through his breath alone. Nothing required struggle or effort. His word carried the power to summon existence out of nothing. This establishes the foundation for all true fear of Yahawah. If the universe responds to his voice, how much more should mankind? He gathereth the waters as if storing them in a vessel, showing that the seas remain where they are because he fixed their boundaries. The stability of the world is not natural. It is maintained by his command. Therefore, all the earth is called to stand in awe, especially the nations who imagine themselves mighty. What he speaks is permanent. What he commands cannot be undone. Creation obeys without resistance. And this psalmist calls the Israelites to recognize that the same voice that forms the heavens is the voice that upholds his covenant with Jacob. This is the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 6 through 12, and it reads, "For he saith to the snow, Be thou on the earth, likewise to the small rain and to the great rain of his strength. He sealeth up the hand of every man, that all men may know his work. Then the beasts go into dens and remain in their places. Out of the south cometh the whirlwind, and cold out of the north. By the breath of God frost is given, and the breath of the waters is straightened. Also by the watering he wearieth the thick cloud. He scattereth his bright cloud, and it is turned round about by his counsels, that they may do whatsoever he commandeth them upon the face of the world in the earth." Elihu describes how the Most High commands the forces of winter, snow, rain, storm, and frost, as they appear instantly at his word. These elements aren't random weather patterns. They are deliberate instruments through which he governs the world. When he tells the snow to fall upon the earth, it blankets everything equally, humbling both man and beast. His storms cause men to cease from their labor, reminding them that their strength and schedules bow to a higher authority. Even the wild animals retreat to their dens because creation recognizes his movements before men do. The cycles of the clouds, lightning, and wind moving according to his guidance, they travel the sky, accomplishing whatever he sends them to perform, whether mercy, correction, or judgment. Elihu is teaching Job that nothing in the natural world is autonomous. Every shift in the weather is a manifestation of the Most High's purposeful rule. By directing the clouds as shepherds guiding a flock, he demonstrates that the forces men consider uncontrollable are fully disciplined under his command, revealing both his power and wisdom. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 19, and it reads, "He appointed the moon for season, the sun knoweth his going down." This verse also highlights the precision and the order of the Most High's creation. By appointing the moon to mark the seasons, he sets time itself into motion, giving structure to the year and to the rhythm of life on the earth. The moon does not wander aimlessly. It fulfills the purpose assigned to it, guiding planting, harvest, and the cycles of the Israelites' feast. Through this, the psalmist emphasizes that even the heavens are instruments of divine order, not chaos. The moon's role also points to the faithful provision of the Most High. Its light governs the night, allowing creatures and humans alike to follow the natural cycles that he established. Everything in the sky and on the earth functions according to his design, reinforcing the principle that all creation, from the smallest seed to the greatest star, obeys the word of Yahawah. Time itself is measured by the sun and moon. It is a reflection of his sovereignty. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, verse 55 through 62, and it reads, "Which spake but the word, let the earth be made, and it was made. Let the heaven be made, and it was created. In his word were the stars made, and he knoweth the number of them. He searcheth the deep, and the treasures thereof. He had measured the sea, and what it containeth. He had shut the sea in the midst of the waters, and with his word had he hanged the earth upon the waters. He spreaded out the heavens like a vault. Upon the waters hath he founded it. In the desert he had made the springs of water, and pools upon the tops of mountains, that the floods might pour down from the high rocks to water the earth. He made man and put his heart in the midst of his body, and gave him breath, life, and understanding. Yeah, and the spirit of the Almighty God, which made all things, searcheth out the hidden things in the secrets of the earth. Nothing in the heavens, the earth, or the depths acts on its own authority. Everything responds to the voice of its creator. Prophet Ezra says that the earth trembles when Yahawah speaks. The mountains, which seem immovable to man, shake and quake before him. The seas, vast and terrifying in their power, obey his word and remain within the bounds he set from the beginning. The stars in their courses, shining in perfect order, keep their appointed paths because he commanded them, and they cannot break his decree. He speaks of winds, spirits, and tempests, lightning and thunder, forces men cannot control. Yet they move with precision because Yahawah directs their steps. Frost, fire, and the storms of heaven carry out his will without hesitation. Every element in creation, from the greatest to the smallest, stand ready to fulfill his purpose. And the prophet's message is clear. The entire creation serves Yahawah with perfect obedience. There is no rebellion among the elements, no resistance in the heavens, no hesitation from the winds or the waters. All things bow to him, all things listen to him, and all things carry out his command. And if the earth, the sky, the seas, the stars, and the forces of nature obey him without question, then how great is his power over all existence? How foolish then is the pride of men who refuse to obey the one whom all creation listens to. The message magnifies the glory of the Most High and exposes the foolishness of human rebellion. Creation obeys, but the nations do not. Creation listens, but men ignore. Creation trembles, and the proud stand stubborn. But the works of Yahawah are mighty, and none can hinder his hand. All creation testifies that he alone is the true power. Creation does what Yahawah tells it to do, obeying his direct commands. The earth is not passive. The earth is not neutral. It does not move on its own or respond randomly. It obeys the highest exactly as he commands. When Yahawah sets a decree, whether for blessing or for judgment, the land itself responds as his servant. The earth acts as an extension of his will, carrying out his judgments against the wicked and upholding his promises to his people. When it comes to Yahawah, the obedience of the earth becomes especially clear. The nations may rise, armies may assemble, and kings may boast, but the land, the very ground beneath their feet, acts only according to Yahawah's command. It is loyal, precise, and unyielding. It yields blessings for the obedient and releases curses for the disobedient, always at the word of the highest. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 18, verse 25 through 28, and it reads, "And the land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomited out her inhabitants. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you." These verses reveal the serious consequences of the Israelites' disobedience to the Most High statutes. The land itself becomes defiled when the people follow practices of the nations around them, showing that sin affects not only the individual, it also affects the entire nation. It also affects the environment in which they dwell. The pollution in the land is a reflection of moral corruption. The earth cannot remain pure under continual rebellion, and it vomits out those who persist in iniquity. Yahawah directly commands the land to reject the wicked. When the Israelites' enemies or the inhabitants defile the earth with sin, the ground itself becomes an instrument of his judgment. The soil, mountains, and valleys act in obedience, expelling those who violate his law. The earth does not act out of its own accord. It obeys the decree of the highest. And this is a warning for the nations and for people who presume to stand in rebellion. Even the ground rises against you at Yahawah's word. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 23 and 24, and it reads, "And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. Yahawah shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed." These verses not only unveil a prophetic realization when judgment is kindled, it also reveals the tangible consequences of the Israelites turning from the statutes of the Most High. When the people abandon his ways, the heavens rebel against them. The sky becomes iron, refusing to yield rain, and the earth resists growth, producing only burning heat and curses instead of sustenance. Nature, designed to serve life, mirrors the condition of the covenant breakers, showing that disobedience disrupts the harmony of creation itself. Yahawah's warning is both vivid and inescapable. The very elements that normally sustain life, the sun, the sky, and the soil, become instruments of correction. The land suffers because the people fail to uphold righteousness, and the harshness of drought and scorching heat becomes a visible testament to his judgments. These verses remind the Israelites that the covenant obedience is not abstract. It is the channel through which blessings flow, and its neglect brings both spiritual and physical consequences that the nations cannot endure. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 5, verse 22, and it reads, "Fear ye not me, saith Yahawah? Will ye not tremble at my presence, which have placed the sand for the bound of the sea by a perpetual decree that it cannot pass. And though the waves thereof toss themselves, yet can they not prevail. Though they roar, yet can they not pass over it. Jeremiah confronts the Israelites with the reality that the Most High controls the natural world, and yet his people refuse to acknowledge his authority. He asks why they treat the heavens as iron and the earth as brass, unmoved by the forces he wields to bless or correct. This imagery shows that the human heart, when hardened, mirror the resistance of the inanimate objects, unresponsive to the guidance and power of Yahawah. These verses teach that obedience is not optional. The very skies and lands operate under his command, bringing rain, fertility, or drought according to his will. And when the Israelites fail to recognize this, they place themselves in opposition to the very order of creation, risking both physical and spiritual consequences. Yahawah's power is absolute, and acknowledgement of it is the first step toward living in harmony with his covenant and the world he sustains. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 3, verse 33 through 35, and it reads, He that sendeth forth light, and it goeth, calleth it again, and it obeyeth him with fear. The stars shined in their watches and rejoiced. When he calleth them, they say, Here we be. And so with cheerfulness they show their light unto him that made them. This is our God, and there shall none other be accounted of in comparison of him. These verses emphasize the unfailing order and power of the Most High, showing that all things in the heavens and on the earth exist according to his command. He had established limits for the seas, appointed the paths of the winds, and fixed the circuits of the sun, moon, and stars. Nothing moves without his direction. Creation itself is a reflection of his wisdom and authority. Baruch highlights that this order is not random, it is intentional, sustaining life and maintaining harmony of the world. By understanding the patterns of nature, one can see the fingerprints of Yahawah's governance. The heavens declare his skill, the earth obeys his statutes, and all of creation witnesses that his word is reliable, purposeful, and absolute. Those who recognize this are called to walk in awe and alignment with his covenant. This is the book of Psalm chapter 104 verses 5 through 14, and it reads, Who laid the foundations of the earth that it should not be removed forever, that covereth it with the deep as with a garment? The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys unto the place that thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. He sendeth the springs into valleys which run among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quenched their thirst. By them shall the fowls of heaven have their habitation, which sing among the branches. He watereth the hills from his chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruits of thy works. He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and the herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. These verses celebrate the Most High as the sovereign architect of the earth, establishing its foundation so that it stands firm and cannot be moved. He sets boundaries for the waters, ensuring rivers flow where he intends, and provides springs and streams to nourish every living thing. This psalmist portrays a world fully ordered under Yahawah's authority, where mountains and valleys and plains all function according to his design. Life depends entirely on his provision. Rains fall from the heavens to water the land, enabling plants to grow for humans and animals alike. The cycle of sustenance, from seed to harvest, from pasture to the flock, is a visible demonstration of his ongoing presence and power. Through this imagery, Israelites are reminded, that the Creator is intimately involved in maintaining creation, and that every blessing from food to water flows directly from his hands. The earth doesn't just act according to chance, man's will, or random natural forces. It obeys Yahawah's decree precisely and faithfully, carrying out his commands regarding the Israelites and the nations around them. When judgment is necessary, the ground executes it. When blessings are intended, the soil and vegetation responds. When boundaries are set, even the seas obey. Creation demonstrates absolute loyalty and submission to the highest, a faithful witness against the disobedient, and a servant unto his people. Yahawah uses creation itself to punish wicked kingdoms. The earth obeys his command. The earth is not neutral. It is not a mere stage for man's sin or kingdom's pride. It is a servant, a weapon, and an agent of Yahawah's will. When the Most High commands the mountains crumble, the ground opens, the seas rage, the skies hurl fire, and the land itself becomes a manifestation of his justice. Human rulers boast of armies, fortresses, and powers, but they are powerless before the obedient earth. Every shift, tremor, or collapse, or eruption occurs not by chance, but at the direct command of the highest. The earth carries out his judgment perfectly, without hesitation, without questioning, without delay. Nations fall, kingdoms are shaken, and the wicked are consumed, and the ground stands as a witness that Yahawah alone is God. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 30 through 33, and it reads, But if Yahawah make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth, and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked Yahawah. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. These verses demonstrate the absolute authority of the Most High and the consequences of challenging his appointed servants. When Korah, Dathan, and Abiram rebelled, the earth itself became an instrument of divine judgment, opening its mouth to swallow them and their households. This was not merely just punishment for pride. It was a visible sign that defiance against God's chosen order disrupts the natural and spiritual world alike. The event also teaches that the earth responds to his command, just like in the beginning when he commanded life from it. Just as rivers, rains, and storms obey him, so too can the ground rise to execute justice. The dramatic swallowing of the rebels underscores that Yahawah's authority is total. No human scheme, no matter how bold, can escape his power. It is a warning that disobedience is not abstract. It carries immediate and tangible consequences when one opposes the covenant and those he has appointed to lead his people. This is the book of Exodus chapter 14 verse 26 through 29, and it reads, "And Yahawah said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength. When the morning appeared, the Egyptians fled against it, and Yahawah overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned, and covereth the chariots, and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on the left." In this passage, the earth itself becomes an instrument of Yahawah's will. When he commands the sea to return to its place, the waters didn't hesitate. They moved. They obeyed instantly, swallowing the Egyptian army while leaving the Israelites safe on dry ground. This shows that the natural world is not neutral. It responds directly to his voice and carries out his purposes without hesitation. The event demonstrates that deliverance and judgment flow through creation itself. Mountains, seas, and rivers do not act independently. Their motion and power are fully under his command. By using the earth to protect his people and punish the proud, Yahawah reveals that all of creation is obedient, moving in accordance with his sovereign authority. This is the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verse 11 through 14, and it reads, "And it came to pass as they fled from before Israel and were in the going down Beth-horon, that Yahawah cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died, and they were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. Then spake Joshua to Yahawah in the day when Yahawah delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand down upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that Yahawah hearkened unto the voice of a man, for Yahawah fought for Israel." In this account, the natural world responds directly to the command of Yahawah on behalf of Joshua. When he hurls large hailstones on the Amorite armies, the sky becomes a weapon, and the battlefield itself executes judgment. Even more striking, when Joshua commands the sun and the moon to stand still, the celestial bodies obeyed, halting their movement to extend the day so that the Israelites could triumph. Creation yields completely to his voice, demonstrating that even the forces of the heavens are subject to the will of Yahawah. This passage emphasizes that victory is not earned by human strength, but through the alignment with the Most High. Mountains, stones, rain, and the orbits of the sun and moon all act as instruments of his purpose. Everything in the natural world, from the heavens to the earth, obeys him, showing that the covenant of the God of Jacob governs all creation and bends it to fulfill his promises to his people. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verse 19 through 22, and it reads, "For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord God. And every man's sword shall be against his brother, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. And I will rain upon him and upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, in overflowing rain, and great hailstones, fire and brimstone." In Ezekiel 38, 19 and 22, the text shows that the Most High wields creation itself as an instrument of judgment. When Gog and his armies move against the Israelites, the mountains quake, rocks fall, and catastrophic forces of nature, storm, earthquake, fire from the heavens, respond to his command. This is not random chaos. It is the earth and sky acting in obedience to Yahawah, executing his righteous indignation against those who defy his covenant. The passage emphasizes that no human strength can stand against him. The fire and brimstone are crafted by his divine hand, precise and purposeful, striking directly at his enemies. Even the very missiles created by the smith of his choosing. Every element of creation, from the shaking mountains to the falling stones and descending fire, it all operates under his authority, demonstrating that the earth and the heavens themselves serve his purposes in protecting the Israelites and enforcing his justice. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 29, verse 6, and it reads, "Thou shalt be visited of Yahawah Tazabawah, the Lord of hosts, with thunder and with earthquake and with a great noise, with storm and with tempest, and the flame of devouring fire." Isaiah 29 shows that the Most High commands creation to act in judgment, making even the ordinary elements instruments of his will. The verse describes terror striking the people, with the earth itself trembling and the sky responding to his presence. Mountains shake, the landscape quakes, and the natural world becomes an agent of divine correction, demonstrating that nothing in creation is beyond his control. Now, symbolically, fire falling from heaven in prophecy isn't necessarily fire coming from beyond the firmament, but coming from an instrument of his indignation, which he had likened mankind to build himself. Yahawah controls it all. And this imagery underscores that Yahawah's power is absolute. The elements obey his word, and he can use fire, storm, earthquake, whatever it is to accomplish his purposes. The earth and sky are not neutral or inert. They respond to his voice, carrying out his judgment against the proud and protecting those aligned with his covenant. Through this, Isaiah reminds the Israelites that the Most High governs all creation, and his hand extends to every part of the world and all therein when executing his will. This is the book of Revelations, chapter 16, verse 17 through 21, and it reads, "And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as not was since man were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake and so great. And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came into remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, and for the plague thereof was exceeding great. Revelation 16 portrays the earth itself as a participant in the final execution of Yahawah's judgment. When the seventh bowl is poured out, a voice from the temple declares his will completed, and immediately the earth reacts with violent upheaval. Lightning, thunder, hail, and a great earthquake reshape the land. Islands disappear, mountains collapse, and cities are swallowed or leveled. Creation itself carries out his purposes, showing that even the solid and permanent features of the world obey his command. This passage underscores that the natural world is not passive. It responds to the Most High as an instrument of both judgment and authority. The calamities are precise and absolute, striking the proud and unrepentant while fulfilling his decrees. Heaven and earth act in concert with his word, demonstrating that nothing in creation operates independently of his sovereign will, and that his power over the world is total and undeniable. This is the book of Jonah, chapter 1, verse 15 through 17, and it reads, "So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. Then the men feared Yahawah exceedingly, and offered a sacrifice unto Yahawah and made vows. Now Yahawah had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." In the first chapter of Jonah, the narrative illustrates how even the sea obeys the command of Yahawah. The sailors, powerless against the storm, are at the mercy of the natural world, which has been stirred into fury by God's purpose. The great fish, prepared by his hand, enters the scene as an instrument of divine intervention, swallowing Jonah and preserving him until the appointed time. Both sea and creature act in exact alignment with his will. This account emphasizes that creation is under his authority, able to execute both correction and protection. The storm and the fish are not random events. They respond to his word and serve the fulfillment of his plan. Even the chaotic and unpredictable elements of nature, waves, wind, and living creatures, tremble before Yahawah, demonstrating that his governance extends over all creation, shaping events according to his covenant purposes. The earth doesn't just simply exist with a bunch of people in life form living upon it. It exists, it acts, it judges, and it executes Yahawah's decrees with perfect obedience. Mountains fall, soil opens, seas rage, stones rain, and stars move, all at his command. Creation is his instrument of judgment and justice, delivering punishment to the wicked and protection to his people. No ruler, no army, no nation can stand against the obedient earth. When the highest gives a decree, the ground itself becomes a witness, a messenger, and a servant of the Most High's almighty power. From the moment Yahawah stepped onto the scene, creation responded to him with the recognition that men did not have. The nations doubted him. The Israelites stumbled at him. The rulers sought to kill him. Yet the winds, the trees, the seas, and the mountains obeyed him without hesitation. Why? Because Yahawah walked in the authority granted to him by Yahawah, not equality, not rivalry, like the Christian church seems to think, not shared dominion, like the Christian church seems to think, but a bestowed power, and creation itself understood that order. The natural world did not argue. It did not debate doctrine. It did not demand signs. It already knew the voice. It already recognized the voice of the Holy and Mighty One and the one Yahawah sent. Every miracle Yahawah performed was not merely to heal or deliver. It was a testimony against mankind. The elements responded instantly, showing that they are more obedient than the nations, more responsive than kings, and more submissive than flesh and blood. While the Israelites wrestled with unbelief and the heathen nations mocked, creation bowed. Every act of Yahawah over the natural world was a declaration that the authority invested in him flows directly from the Father. The wind recognized it, the seas recognized it, the trees recognized it, the mountains will recognize at his return. The very atoms of existence yield to him because Yahawah had made all things subject to his command. This is the book of Matthew chapter 8 verse 26 and 27, and it reads, "And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and sea obey him?" In Matthew chapter 8, Yahawah demonstrates that the forces of nature are fully subject to the voice of the Most High. When the disciples are terrified by the storm, he rebukes the wind and the sea, and immediately they obey, calming at his command. This shows that the earth and its elements are not independent. They respond directly to his authority, moving precisely as he wills. The reaction of the natural world also reveals the disciples' need to recognize his power. The winds and waves, which often inspire fear, are instruments that illustrate his sovereignty. Creation itself testifies to the authority of Yahawah and his Messiah, obedient to his word and serving his purposes, whether for judgment, protection, or the teaching of his people. This is the book of Matthew chapter 21 verse 19 and 20, and it reads, "And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforth and forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away?" In Matthew 21, Yahawah uses the fig tree to demonstrate that the natural world responds to divine authority. When he curses the tree, it withers immediately, showing that even plant life obeys the command of the Most High, and that the Most High was dealing with him. This is a tangible reminder that creation is not inert. It acts in accordance with the will of the highest, both reflecting his power and the seriousness of the covenant accountability. The disciples' astonishment underscores the lesson. The forces of nature, including trees, rivers, and skies, are under Yahawah's control. Just as the earth can be made to bless or wither at his word, so too does obedience to his command align humanity with the order of creation. And the Most High's chosen vessel illustrates that power that came from the highest was fully bestowed upon man. The fig tree becomes a living testimony that Yahawah's authority extends over all things, and nothing in the natural world moves outside his command. This is the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 40, and it reads, "And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out." In Luke 19, Yahawah reveals that creation itself can testify to the truth of the Most High when human voices fail to recognize it. He declares that if his followers were silent, the very stones would cry out, showing that even inanimate elements of the earth are capable of obeying his will and his bearing witness. The natural world is not passive. It participates in God's plan and can declare his glory when called to do so. This statement underscores that all creation is alive to his authority. Mountains, rivers, and stones are under his command and can act as instruments of proclamation or judgment. Just as the fig tree obeyed his word and the seas calmed at his voice, so too can the earth itself testify to his righteousness, revealing that every part of creation is aligned with his covenant purposes, whether in praise, witness, or correction. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, verse 10 and 11, and it reads, "But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid." In 2nd Esdras 13, the passage emphasizes that the natural world participates in the fulfillment of the Most High's purposes. When the scattered Israelite remnant is restored, creation itself seems to align with this divine act. The earth responds to his hand, yielding sustenance and light, while obstacles that oppose his people are removed. This illustrates that the world is not neutral. It obeys his word and acts in concert with his covenant promises. The text shows that deliverance is both spiritual and physical, with creation itself testifying to his authority. Mountains, rivers, and lands submit to his command, providing safety and provision for the redeemed. Through this, the reader sees that the earth is an active participant in Yahawah's plan, its obedience reflecting his power, justice, and care for his covenant people. Yahawah walked the earth as a perfect servant of Yahawah, fulfilling every imaginable command given from the Almighty, fully submitted to the will of the Father, yet endowed with authority over creation itself. And creation, unlike mankind, instantly recognized that authority. The nations mocked him. The Israelites wrestled with unbelief, and the rulers rejected him. But the elements bowed the moment he spoke. Every miracle involving wind, water, trees, or the heavenly host was not merely a display of compassion. It was a testimony that the Father had invested his Son with dominion that creation itself cannot ignore. So while men question and doubt and resist and rebel, the natural world responds without hesitation. The wind ceased, the seas calmed, the fig tree withered. Nature itself was more obedient than the Israelites' enemies, and more faithful than the nations surrounding them. Yahawah's dominion over creation was a living witness that Yahawah had appointed him as heir of all things, not as an equal to the Father, but as the one entrusted with command. And creation testified of that appointment louder than any man could. If the earth obeys, what excuse does man have? From the beginning, creation has stood as a faithful witness to the power, majesty, and sovereignty of Yahawah. The earth never argued with its maker. The sun never questioned its order. The winds never hesitated when commanded. The mountains trembled at his presence. The seas respect their boundaries. The stars move according to their appointed paths. Everything from the smallest insect to the highest heavens understands its place before the Most High. And here stands man, fragile dust, momentary breath, a creature whose life is vapor, daring to resist the commandments of the one whom heaven and earth fear. The beasts obey him, the birds obey him, the stones, the winds, the lightning, the oceans, the stars. Every one of them obeys Yahawah without delay, without debate, without rebellion. But man, men, even who were made in his image, are the only ones presumptuous enough to defy him. If even the earth trembles when he looks upon it, what excuse does a man have to ignore his voice? If the seas stop at his decree, what makes a nation think it can cross the boundaries he sets? If trees wither, mountains quake, and storms move at his command, what madness possesses mankind to imagine that they can resist his judgments? The whole creation stands as a rebuke to human stubbornness. Every beast, every bird, every stream, every cloud testifies that Yahawah rules. They preach a sermon louder than any prophet's voice, that Yahawah is to be feared, obeyed, and revered. The heavens themselves declare his glory, and their message covers the entire earth. There is no speech nor language where the voice is not heard. Creation is unified in obedience. Only man separates himself through disobedience. And the Israelites, the chosen nation, has even less excuse. The covenant was given to them, the laws spoken to them, the prophets sent to them, the heritage assigned to them. When the earth obeys Yahawah, it is simply doing what it was made to do. But when the Israelites disobey, it is rebellion against the very God who chose them above all people. Now, if the earth stands ready to carry out his will, then how much more should his people? This is the book of Job, chapter 12, verse 7 through 10, and it reads, "But ask now the beast, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee, or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not all these, that have the hand of Yahawah hath wrought this? In whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind?" Job chapter 12 reminds us that creation itself is a living testimony to the Most High's wisdom and authority. Job points out that if we study the animals, the birds, and the earth, we can discern the hand of God at work. None act apart from his command. Life, sustenance, and movement exist only because he grants breath and direction, showing that all things, great and small, are subject to his will. This passage underscores that the earth and its creatures are not independent or random. They obey and reflect his power. Rivers flow, animals act, and the land produces according to his mighty decree. Job teaches that by observing creation, one can understand divine order and providence, seeing that the earth itself acknowledges and responds to Yahawah's authority, sustaining life and declaring his sovereignty. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 19, verse 1 through 4, and it reads, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set the tabernacle for the sun." This particular psalm shows that the heavens themselves are an active testimony to the Most High. The skies declare his glory. The celestial bodies carry out his instructions, moving in precise order across the expanse. Their course is not random. It is constant proclamation of his wisdom and authority, visible to all who observe, even without words. This passage, it emphasizes that this obedience is universal. The sun, the moon, and stars fulfill their roles without hesitation or failure. Creation communicates his power and order, silently instructing humanity in the reality of his sovereignty. By watching the heavens, one can see that the natural world is attentive to his will. serving as both a witness to his majesty and an instrument through which his glory is displayed. This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16, verse 24 through 26, and it reads, "For the creature that serveth thee, who art the maker, increaseth his strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, and abated his strength for the benefit of such as put their trust in thee. Therefore even then was it altered into all fashions, and was obedient to thy grace, that nourisheth all things according to the desire of them that had need, that thy children, O Lord, whom thou lovest, might know that it is not the growing of fruits that nourisheth man, but it is thy word which preserveth them that put their trust in thee." Wisdom of Solomon 16 portrays the natural world as obedient to the Most High, carrying out its purposes with precision. The waters, the wind, even the fire act according to his command, serving both to sustain life and to execute correction when necessary. Creation is not autonomous, it moves in exact alignment with his wisdom, reflecting his power and care. The passage emphasizes that the Most High's providence extends through all the elements of the earth. Storms, river, and the forces of nature are instruments in his hands, maintaining order, protecting the righteous, and restraining the wicked. By observing creation, one sees that the world itself acknowledges his authority, testifying to his justice, wisdom, and sovereign control over every living and inanimate thing. From the foundations of the world, Yahawah has proven his absolute dominion, not through philosophy or through debate, not through the inventions of men, but through the very fabric of creation itself. The earth, the heavens, the elements, the beast, the winds, the seas, the stars, all of them move when he speaks. They tremble at his presence. They fulfill his decrees. They testify his glory without break, without failure, without rebellion. Yet, mankind, the weakest creature, the most fragile, the most dependent, imagines himself too proud to bow, too wise to listen, too stubborn to obey. Men debate what the trees already understand. Kings argue what the seas obey naturally. The nations question what the mountains fear. And all creation watches as mankind pretends he has no evidence of the living power who governs reality itself. The Israelites, Yahawah, a people crawling out of darkness, trying to find the rays of light. The Israelites especially have no cloak for rebellion, for they are the people of Yahawah, claimed for himself. The covenant is yours. The law was spoken into the ears of your forefathers. The promises, the heritage, the prophets, the Messiah. These were not given to beasts or stones or stars, but to you. And still, even in these last days, many would rather follow the doctrines of the other nations than the voice of the Holy and Mighty One who split the Red Sea for their forefathers. Meanwhile, creation remains faithful. The earth vomits out the wickedness when Yahawah commands. The heavens stop giving rains when he withholds it. The lightning moves at his order. Storms travel where he needs them, where he sends them. The mountains skip, seas flee, rivers divide, fire descends, all at the word of Yahawah. Even Yahawah, the king appointed by Abanawa, Yahawah, walked in authority and recognized immediately by the natural world. The winds obeyed him, seas bowed before him, trees perished at his judgment, and he declared that if men would not praise, stones would rise up and do it. Creation is more loyal than this flesh, more obedient than rulers, more responsive than flesh and blood, more faithful than kingdoms that lift themselves up in pride. So the question thunders forth at the end of this lesson. If the earth obeys, what excuse do we have? If fire submits, how can man resist? If water transforms at his word, how can a nation rebel? If the very ground beneath our feet answers his call, how can the Israelites turn a deaf ear? If beasts, birds, stars, trees, mountains, and seas all fulfilled his command, what defense will any human present in the day of judgment? There is none. Creation obeys its creator. The Son obeys his Father. The angels obey the throne. But mankind will be judged for every refusal to obey the Holy and Mighty One, the one whom even the earth itself fears. Let this teaching stand as a testimony and a warning. Yahawah rules. Yahawah commands. Yahawah alone is to be obeyed. If creation listens, Israelites should listen. His people must listen even more. And for the nations that refuse him, the same earth that obeys the Father, he will execute judgment upon them. Thus concludes the matter. The earth obeys Yahawah, and therefore no man has an excuse. And in closing, it's all honor, all glory, and all praises to Yahawah, the eternal power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the righteous judge and the Holy One of Yahshua. And blessings be upon the elect through Hamashiach Yahawah, the anointed King, the Lion of Judah, the deliverer of Zion, the mighty intercessor raised up by the Most High himself. Yahawah alone is the receiver of all praise, and Yahawah is the door, the mediator, the high priest, the vessel by whom we are reconciled and have access. May the Most High give you eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to obey. May your steps be ordered by his word, your faith proven by your works, and your soul preserved in the day of visitation. Barakatham Bahashem Yahawah, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahawah, Barakatham Banyam Yasha'Allah, Kwam Yasha'Allah, Kwam Malak, Kwam Tazadak, Call Haloyam La Yahawah Thumb Yad. It's your brother Ak Lamak, and I hope you all were edified. And Shalom.